Alrighty, well, good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Andrew Doffney and I'm the Instruction and Outreach Librarian at the New Jersey State Library. And it's my pleasure to welcome back one of our repeat speakers, Paul Sakala, who's going to be talking today about simple and actionable ways that you can get started networking, or if you already have a network existing, how you can kind of boost that for some more added results. So, for those of you who might not know, Paul is a certified global career development facilitator, work search author, and founder of Sakala Career Consultants. Since 1999, he has assisted over 3,000 job seekers, ranging from C-suite executives to college students. He specializes in creating job search project plans and is recognized for his empathetic listening skills. He currently facilitates job seeker networking groups for four different organizations. He has also helmed the adult professional education programs for two colleges, as well as a New Jersey Department of Labor one-stop career center. He has his BS in psychology from Florida Institute of Technology and has published two books and numerous articles on career coaching in a variety of publications. So we're really excited to have Paul back today. And before we jump into his presentation, I just have a few housekeeping items to go over. First and foremost, we will be taking your questions at the end of the presentation, but you can submit them at any time using the Q&A or the chat feature in the Zoom dashboard. At the end of the webinar, there will be a survey available. So if you have time, we ask that you please complete the survey. We really appreciate any and all feedback that you can give us. And if you want more information about some of the stuff that's going to be talked about today or other aspects of career searching, job searching, all of that, you can visit Paul's website at sakalacareer.com. And then one last thing I have for you is just a brief overview of the Zoom dashboard. This is what your dashboard should look like if you're using a PC or a Mac. If you're using a mobile device, the dashboard may look a little bit different, but all of the features will still be there. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can check your audio settings. So if you're using an external listening device like a headset or earbuds, you can check to make sure it's connected properly there. At any point during the presentation, if you do have any issues, there's a raise hand button here in the middle. You can click on that and that'll alert me. I will send you a message in Zoom and hopefully be able to resolve any problems that you are having. And lastly, as I mentioned, if you do have questions, you can use the chat or the Q&A buttons to get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to address them for you. So that is everything that I have for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul now. You're still muted, Paul.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Thanks, Andrew. It's always great to be back to talk with the folks here at the state library. And I'm sure many of you know of the services that they provide. Let's see. It looks like I got the wrong screen share there. Um, and that their services are really fantastic. And what I love is that the state library system is providing services for us as members of the New Jersey community that at no cost. Like for example, one of the biggest and best things from a career coaching perspective that I see from them is the access to dataaxle.com's reference solutions database, which is a database that if you and I were to go after it, we'd have to pay, thousands of dollars to get access to it. But the state library system, through our taxes, is paying for that in every public library in the state. So you can go to your local town library and get access to this database that has just about every corporate location listed in it throughout the entire country. So if you want to find out, for example, every location of, let's say, Bristol Myers Squibb, you can go and ask that database and it will tell you every place there's a Bristol Myers Squibb office. And then you can determine, do I want to work in that office or a different one? So it's a great opportunity. But today we're going to talk about networking and the simple steps that you can take to get started in networking. And so the first thing I want us to think about is, what is the definition of networking? Because so many people get it wrong, right? We think oftentimes networking is, well, if I connect with somebody on Facebook or on LinkedIn, then I'm networking. Well, no, that's just the very first step towards building a network. Networking is all about building relationships. Doing the same thing on a business and professional level that you would do with friends. How do you build new friendships? Well, we need to do the same thing in a networking situation. Um, so here are some things you might want to think about. Are you doing these things or not? Because these are the things that are going to help you to frame your networking skills more appropriately, right? So who do you know that are experts in networking? Who are the people you know that are really great at connecting with other people and getting to know them and building relationships with them, right? How do you build your friendships and relationships? So those are the kinds of things that we want to go to at this point. So let's keep going here. I've got probably 10 or 12 ideas or steps, as I'm calling them in this presentation, towards networking. Now, it's not that they really build one on the other, but these are all the different aspects of how to build a successful network. First thing is, let's have some goals, especially if you're in job search. We need to really have some goals of how many people do we need to talk to on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in order to get access to the hiring managers that will ultimately be the person that hires us for a job, right? And so these are some metrics that I find that work for my clients. If you can be talking to two or three hiring managers or hiring authorities in an ongoing basis over the course of a couple of weeks or a month, it's likely that those hiring authorities will ultimately end up having a position available for you so that you can then interview for it. But the good news is if they know who you are before they have an opening, you're going to be that insider that they turn to hire rather than going out and interviewing other people. Or if they have to interview other people, they're going to also interview you knowing that you're the one they're going to hire, right? It's accessing what is called commonly the hidden jobs market. So over time, we need 4 or 5, maybe 6 conversations with hiring managers. In any given week, we probably need to talk to at least 2 or 3 of them. If we don't know that many hiring managers at the organizations where we want to work, then we probably will need to do some general networking with other people. And that means we need to talk to just anybody who can introduce us to the hiring manager. And I'm going to go into a little of these things more deeply as we get deeper into the presentation. But in terms of numbers, over the course of a month or so, we need to have 8 to 10 conversations with people who can ultimately introduce us to hiring managers, which means we probably need to talk to 3 or 4, maybe 5 of them every week in order to build the relationship so that over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, they're ready to say, God, you seem amazing. I need to introduce you to my boss so that they can hire you. Or, I don't need you, but I know my friend in this other department needs to hire someone like you. Let me introduce you to them. We need to talk to at least one person every week in each of our top 5 target organizations. Right? So hopefully, and this is a whole other presentation as a part of your total job search process, hopefully you have a list of target organizations. For most of us, that list needs to have about 40 or 50, maybe more organizations on the list. Now, we can't talk to all 40 or 50 of them every week or even every month. But if we start prioritizing them and talk to them 3, 4 at a time, one new person each week in those top 5 companies, you'll ultimately get to the person who either is the hiring authority or knows the hiring authority that will hire you. A great place to go to meet those folks is your professional associations. So, are you attending the association meetings for the organizations where all of the people in your industry congregate or all the people in your profession congregate. For example, I work a lot with uh, project managers. And in fact, in April, I'll be speaking at the Project Management Institute Northern Jersey chapters and a semi-annual career fair. It's a great place, a great organization to get to meet other project managers who might be able to hire you if that's what you're looking for. Every year for the last several years, I've spoken at the annual CCON conference, which is the conference of cybersecurity professionals. Again, it's another place where all the people in that industry in New Jersey come together and network, do some education, all kinds of different things. You need to be participating in those organizations for your industry. I noticed, for example, in the room today, we've got a couple of archaeologists. I thought that was kind of cool. Welcome to the two of you that I saw so far in the list. I'm glad you're here. But tell me, what's the Professional Association of Archaeologists? Are you a member? Do you participate in their meetings? This is where you want to be. There are a bunch of groups throughout the state that are specialized organizations to help job seekers in their job search. In fact, just this morning from 9:30 to 11:30, I was on one that I co-facilitate. And it's called the Professional Support Group of Morris County. Now, we meet on Zoom, so we have folks coming from all over the tri-state area participating in the meeting. But it's a place where people who are unemployed come together to learn more about job search, to get best practices like this presentation from professionals in the industry, and then they can take that away to go do more in their job search and do better. A lot of vendors are offering free educational webinars or presentations. I know Microsoft was famous for doing this. So if you can participate in those free vendor offerings, you'll be getting access to other people who are employed and you can network with them. So these are just some of the kinds of goals that you want to have in your networking. By the way, if you have questions, feel free, just type them in and either I or Andrew will get them and we'll get those answered for you. So the second step or the second uh, thing I want you to remember from today is the goal we need to always be moving towards is getting conversation with the boss. The more hiring managers or authorities that you can talk to, the more likely you are to have success in your job search, right? So who is that hiring authority? Well, it's the right person at the right level in the right company. I was working with a recent college graduate, in fact, from TCNJ, who said, my dad introduced me to the CEO of ABC Company, and it went nowhere. I couldn't get the job. Well, of course it went nowhere because he's looking to get an entry-level job in as a data entry person, but he's talking to the CEO that's like 4 or 5 levels up, and the CEO doesn't want to come down and dictate to that manager that they need to interview this person or hire this person. So all the CEO could do in order to not overstep his role was say to this young man, go apply online. But had that had his father introduced him to someone closer to the level of the hiring manager for the data entry folks, he more likely would have gotten an interview. So we need to identify who is the right person at that right level and go talk to them. That's the hiring authority. Gatekeepers are problematic. We have a lot of them these days. The applicant tracking system is a gatekeeper. If you can get to HR, they're often gatekeepers. You walk into an employer and security is going to be a gatekeeper. The administrative assistant to the hiring manager is a gatekeeper. In some cases, employees can be gatekeepers because if I don't like you or think you're going to be a good fit, I'm not going to introduce you to my boss. Right? So our goal in talking to all these different people is how do we get past them to get to the person that we need to speak to? And I'll give you one quick example of how I did that just a few years back. It was prior to COVID, I admit, but I was working at a school and trying to get my IT entry level students into jobs. And so I walked into a company and there was this sterile room, about 20 by 20. In the middle of the room, there was this like 6 foot square cube with a desk and the security guard. And off of this room, there were the glass doors to enter from outside. And then each of the other three walls had one single door that led into the company. And those doors were security locked. So I walked up to the security guard and I said, "Hi, this is who I am. Here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to meet with the IT tech support folks to see if I can get my graduates jobs." And her immediate response is, "No solicitation allowed. You have to leave." Well, I said, "I'm not here to solicit. What I want to do is see if I can help meet the company's hiring needs by offering at no cost access to our graduates." Oh, well, that doesn't sound like solicitation, but I don't know what to do with that. "I'm not allowed to give out people's names. You'll have to leave." And then she got distracted with some other people coming and going. And then I commented to her, "That 2 dozen long stem yellow roses on your desk, is today your birthday?" And she got coy and said, yes, it was. They were from her boyfriend. Now I started to build relationship with her. I broke that ice and we had some conversation about the romantic things that either we've done for our partner or our partner has done for us. So I went back and again, I said, look, I really don't want to cause problems. I don't have a product to sell. I am trying to help my students get jobs. But today, all I want is the name of the right person to talk to so that I can make an appointment to come back and meet with them appropriately. And she said, well, I'm really not allowed to give out names, but let me see if I can find someone in human resources that would be willing to let me give you their name. And long story too long, she ultimately found someone. Now, this was on a Friday afternoon in August, so she didn't get in touch with anyone until Monday, but she got in touch with someone who said, sure, give him my name. She called me back because I left her business card and she gave me that person's name. Well, 2 weeks later, I had 10 of my graduates employed at that company because I found a way to get around that gatekeeper. There's absolutely a way to get past the applicant tracking systems, and it's too much to go into in today's presentation. But if you reach out to me, I can help you figure out how to get past that applicant tracking system so that it doesn't feel like you're going into a black hole, but will get a response that's a positive response from someone in the organization. Who are the gatekeepers? How do you get past them? We really need to make networking something that we do routinely without thinking about it. It should be something that happens almost every day. And so here's a way that you can do that. And, you know, my husband came up with this. I wish I could take credit for it, but it was really great. He works for United Parcel Service in their IT division. When he got sent home from COVID or for COVID back at the pandemic, he said, Paul, I don't know what I'm going to do. Without access to all the people that I talk to every day at their desk, I'm losing my special sauce that makes me the go-to person to get answers. So I came up with the idea. He created a list of the 50 people in his organization that were most important for him to maintain contact with. I want to recommend you make a list of 50 people. The 50 people you think will be the most helpful in getting you access to a hiring manager for your next job. Once you have that list, and maybe take the rest of this week to develop that list, then starting on Monday, take the first 5 names off the top of that list. And this is what he did. He reached out to them. You reach out, email, phone, IM, however you want, but reach out to them. And the basic message you're going to say is, hey, not dead yet. Hope you're not too. Let's chat. Putting it a little more professionally, I was thinking of you the other day and know it's been a while since we last spoke. I'd love to catch up. Do you have 5 minutes to have a virtual cup of coffee this week? Now you reach out to 5 people. There's a very high probability that at least 3 of them will reach back to you during that week and you'll have a conversation with them. There's a chance that the other 2 will as well. So you'll talk to somewhere between 3 and 4, maybe 5 people. And you're just going to have a catch-up conversation. What's going on in your life? What's going on in my life? Yeah, I'm kind of looking for something new in my job. And, you know, here are the companies I'm looking to work for. Do you know anybody that works at these organizations? Right. And just keep it simple and light like that. Um, as you go through the list, you know, this Monday you call the top 5. Next Monday you call 6 through 10. The Monday after that, you're reaching out to 11 to 15. Every week you just take 5 names off that list and you reach out to them. At the end of 10 weeks, you'll have reached out to all 50 people. You'll have talked to at least 30 of them. And even if you don't talk to them, that's okay because your name is now at the top of their mind. Hey, I heard from Paul the other day. That was nice of him to reach out to me. I'll try and get back to him when I have time. Now, 2 months, 2.5 months later, their name pops back up to the top of the list and I'm reaching out again. Oh my God, I never got back to Paul. Let me put him on the top of my list so I make sure I reach out to him right away because I don't want to miss talking to him again this time. And that's what's going to happen. You're continuing the relationship and you're sharing. And, after 2.5 months, hey, some things have happened in my life. Let me share with you the updates and changes since the last time we talked. What's happened in yours? And you keep that relationship going. Simple, easy way, and not really overwhelming. Hopefully, we're all involved in some form of social media. I suspect many of us are on Facebook for our social life, but we also probably should be on LinkedIn for our professional life. Now, I don't want someone to be on every social media platform and try and keep touch with everybody on all those platforms. It's just too much to deal with. But you want to think about where is that hiring manager that I want to reach found? Just, let's say Wednesday, I guess it was Friday. I was talking with a young man who wants to get deeper into his acting and directing of films type of career. And he said, "Yeah, I've really not been very active on LinkedIn, so I guess I got to change and do that." And I said, "Well, wait, hold on, stop. What social media platform will those directors and producers and the other people who need to hire you be found?" And he said, "Well, they're probably going to be on Instagram or maybe even TikTok watching reels." I said, "Well, then that's where you need to be because that's where they're going to find you." Now, this morning, I was talking with a gentleman who, in this networking group, who is a data analyst. And he said, yeah, I spend a lot of time networking on Facebook. And I said, but is that where the hiring networking? Well, no, they're probably on LinkedIn. I said, well, you get your butt on LinkedIn. You know, start actively working on connecting with people and engaging with people on LinkedIn. So the first step to social media is to identify what's the right social media platform for you to find the hiring managers that you want to talk to. And so that they can then find you, you take the second step, and that is to engage with them. And what does it mean to engage? Well, you need to maybe post once a week or so some kind of original thought. It could be that I read this article and I found this really fascinating information. And so you post the article, and a little summary of what you found important about that article shows you're a thought leader in your industry. Better than that, though, is to follow the companies you want to work for and follow or connect with the hiring managers that you want to work for and start engaging with them. So when the company posts something or that hiring manager posts something, you respond to that post, comment on it. Here's what I love about what I just saw in your post. Here's a question that I have for you about it. Right? And by asking that question, you're almost forcing them to have to respond back to you. Now you're building a relationship because you're having a two-way communication. You do that two, three, four times, and now your name is familiar to that hiring manager. So when you then go and ask to connect with them, they're more likely to do it because they already know you. And since they already know you and now they're connected to you, and maybe you have a more one-on-one conversation with them, when they have a position available, they're more likely to want to talk to you about hiring you for that position. Right? So I suggest you take about 60 minutes a week. Let's not get overboard and take forever. 60 minutes a week. I do it 30 minutes on Tuesday morning, first thing when I get to my computer, and 30 minutes on Friday morning when I get to my computer. And I go on to LinkedIn. I manage all of my new relationships, anybody who is wanting to connect with me, right? The networking tab. Then I go to the messages tab and I respond to any of the people that have messaged me so that they're hearing back from me in a timely manner. And then I look at my notifications tab. The notifications tab is telling me the people that I follow and that I'm connected to, what are they posting? The other thing that the connections tab or uh, that final tab, notifications tab, is saying to you, here's the people who have commented on your post and what they said. Now I can go directly to that post, directly to that comment, and respond back to them without having to fumble through my entire feed to find it. But it's the engagement. It's the building that relationship, the talking to each other, the communicating with each other in some format. That's the value of social media, right? And so, again, here's some of the ways that you do those things. 30 minutes per week to create posts. No more than that. And you know, if you set aside even 30 minutes once a month and created four, five, six posts, now you can just every week go pull one out and throw it out there and then go back to doing all of the follow up and the engaging. And then next week you take the next post off of that list and you throw it out there and then you go back to engaging so that you don't have to spend a lot of time creating things. When you do post something, you want to tag some people in it, ask a question in your post. That again will develop readership. It'll build relationship because those people then will start responding to your question, right? Address your thought to the post's creator by tagging that person in your post. So these are just some simple ways that you can utilize LinkedIn or any social media really to build your network. Here are some conversation starters for when you are networking. especially if it's like on LinkedIn or social media. And one of the things I love about the notifications section of LinkedIn, it will tell me whose birthday it is today or over the next couple of days. And so I can reach out and say, happy birthday to you. Or it'll tell me who's having a work anniversary. And so I can congratulate you on the number of years that you've worked at that organization. And so it gives me a reason to reach out and talk to you. Always end. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know, right? The gratitude contact, whether it's by phone, email, or a LinkedIn message. Hey, last year you helped me with this. To this day, it's still helping me and been important, and I really appreciate it. I just wanted to let you know I was thinking of you and that this was helpful. Let me know if I can help you at all. Right. I saw this article and thought of you. Here's why I think it's important for you to read it. Tell me your thoughts. I recently learned this intelligence about the industry. If you're in job search, you're hopefully talking to a lot of people in the industry, learning a lot of what's going on currently in that industry. And so now you can share that information with other people in the industry so that they can then say, ooh, hey, that's something I wasn't aware of. I better get on it. Or maybe they do know about it, but you're able to say, tell me, how do you see this impacting on your organization? Or what plans have you made to counter this concern in the industry? It gives you a reason to talk to them. Everybody loves Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Valentine's Day, whatever holiday it is, right? But just send them a quick little note that says, I'm thinking of you on this holiday and hope that you enjoy it, right? Always, 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 though, you're ending every conversation with, how can I help you? You always want to be the first to offer help and the first to give help. How can I help you? So, um, I see there is a question in the Q&A. What is your guidance on how to know whether you should either connect or follow someone on LinkedIn? So that's a great question, Emma. How do I know whether or not to connect with someone or to follow with them? Always follow. That's simple. It's easy. It doesn't require the other person to do anything. So just start with minimally following someone. You'll start to see their stuff come up on your feed on a regular basis. Now, if this is truly someone that you really either know or need to know, then connect with them and tell them why you're connecting. For example, what I would suggest to all of you, I would love for you to connect with me. Happy to hear from you, happy to help you in any way that I can. So reach out to me, whether it's on LinkedIn or however, and just say, I attended the presentation you did, the lunch and learn you did for the state library on February 4th. Can we get together or can we meet? Can we talk? Whatever. But you tell me that that's where and how we met, and I'll be right there with you immediately. I'll connect immediately and reach back to you as soon as possible. As you're thinking about these conversations with your network, you want to try and find what are their pain points? What are the things that are keeping them awake at night, preventing them from sleeping, the things that are causing them problems in their job, and how can you help them with those issues? Right now, you really don't want to just go say, Andrew, tell me, what are your pain points? What's keeping you up at night at work? Right? He's going to think, what kind of an idiot, crazy person are you? But if in the conversation, you can ask questions about things that are going on in the organization. I'd love to learn more about some of the things that have been problematic since COVID. The world has changed. Tell me what's changing for your job. And that's the kind of thing that will start conversation, getting them thinking about the things that are problematic for them and give you the opportunity to say, oh, wow, I was talking to the head librarian at the Morris County Library. You know her. This is what they're doing related to that issue. Would that be helpful for you? Should I make the introduction so the two of you can talk more about that? This is where I'm being helpful to my network. It could be you're talking to someone and they say, well, you want a data analyst job, just to use that from a previous example. We're really looking for a business analyst. Oh my God. I happen to know three amazing business analysts. One of them actually has experience in your industry. Would you like me to make the introduction to you to those people? I'm helping you, right? And this is what we want to do in networking. There are going to be some people in your network that really require a greater connection. And so you want to meet them for coffee or for a meal or for drinks, And so there's a part of that five people you're reaching out to. Hey, can we grab a quick cup of coffee to catch up? Or, gee, I was hoping to take about 15 minutes of your time. Do you have some time prior to the business day next week? Or, you know, I'm going to be in your area. I'd love to stop and have lunch with you. So find ways to grab these people, get together with them, and then have a good conversation with them. And this is where you're setting up now informational meetings, which will lead to the job opportunities. So what is an informational meeting? It's that coffee conversation, that 10 or 15-minute get to know you, get reacquainted conversation that you're having with people in your network, where you're sharing what's going on in your life, they're sharing what's going on in their life. Now, you've asked for the meeting, so you need to have your agenda. Andrew, I would love to come work for the state library. Do you have some time that we could get together and talk about my background a little bit and some of the needs of the library and see if there's a place where I would fit? And so we have that conversation. Now, when I get there, I'm going to say, so, Andrew, you know I'm a career coach, I'm a corporate trainer. Tell me, are those the kinds of skills that the library has needs for? And when, where, and how would they need those skills? Who would be the right people to talk to, right? And see how I've got my list of questions that I'm bringing to the conversation that help me get the information I need, but also lead him in how he can help me because he wants to be helpful to me. Andrew and I love each other. We know each other for a long time. We want to be able to do what we can to help each other. And so this is how you can build those relationships, strengthen those relationships. At the end of the conversation, I'm going to say, Andrew, I know we started with, I want to work here at the state library, but if you think there are other libraries in the state, especially in the northern half, that could use someone with my skills, who do you know that you could introduce me to at those libraries? Or maybe I would say to them, I know the Morris County Library and the Middlesex County Library and the Princeton Library are really big and have a good, strong staff and do a lot of programming. Do you know the people in charge of that kind of programming at those libraries? And would you introduce me to them? Right. So I'm asking Andrew or whomever I'm talking to for more contacts, more people I can bring into my network. And of course, he always follows up with thank you notes. An important part of networking is actually being a really, really good listener. It's amazing when I started to focus more on listening to the people that I'm talking to rather than trying to talk to them, I started to remember the names of the folks that I'm talking to. Now I can walk down the street and say hello to people rather than, hey, you, how are you? Oh, I can say, hi, Mary. Hey, Steve, long time no chat. Right? Listening is a lost art. But when we listen with intention and we listen intently to different things, all of a sudden we're getting so much more information and we're learning so many more things that we can then use in our job search or in our networking, right? So some things that I like to do. Um, Repeat the person's name a couple of times. I know it's silly. People say to do this all the time, but it's true. The more often you repeat their name, the more likely you are to remember it. Now, you don't want to go, Andrew, I'm going to repeat your name every 5 seconds, Andrew, because that's how I'm going to remember your name, Andrew. Andrew, it's important that I remember your name, right? No, that's ridiculous. But if I can pepper that name in there 2, 3, 4 times in our 5-minute conversation, now I'm going to remember it. Listening intentionally and intently means that I'm showing interest in what the other person is saying. I'm more interested in what they have to say than I am in me responding to what they have to say. So I'm just going to listen. And one of the things I can do in listening is reflect back what I heard, because now they can see again how much I'm paying attention to what's important to them. Also, I can ask some questions, but they need to be open-ended questions more than anything. Wait a minute, you just talked about this. I don't quite understand what you mean. Can you give me more details? Right? Again, I'm showing interest, I'm showing intention, I'm showing that I'm paying attention to what they're saying, and I'm asking them to clarify it so I fully understand it. And as you're going through, you can then slowly start to lead the conversation in the direction that you want, which is to get the information you need to be able to work there. Now, we're going pretty quick through these, and I've got a few more to get through, but I want to also make sure I save some time for Q&A. So if I go too fast, I apologize. If you want a copy of this slide deck, no problem. At the end, my contact information will be there. I'll also put my contact information into the chat so that you can get it. And I want you to just reach out to me, and I'm happy to provide you with this deck. You just have to reach out and ask for it. So you want to be ready to give before you receive. Look, people love people who give them stuff. People love people who help them. Right? So you don't want to be seen as the one who's needy and always asking, give me, give me, give me. You want to be seen as the one that's giving back. How can I help you? Here's what I can do for you. Let me do this. Let me give you that. You do that once or twice with somebody, they're going to be indebted to you, and they're going to keep coming back to you and saying thank you and wanting to find a way to now help you. Oh, great. The way you can help me is I need access to, the Smith Klein Beecham. Can you get me contact at that company? Right. This is how you're building that relationship. So we can give them contacts, we can share articles or industry information, and I bet if you think about it, you can come up with some other ways to help them as well. Now, we talked about open-ended questions, and just as a reminder, these are some of the things that make an open-ended question when you're networking, right? So it's a question that doesn't require a yes or no answer. It does not use the verb is or do, because that's going to give a one-word answer. Right? People like to talk about themselves. So if you can ask questions that get people to talk about themselves, you're more likely to build a relationship. And this is really good for those of us who are maybe a little more shy. I know when I'm in a social setting, I tend to be the wallflower. When I'm in a professional setting where I have a task or a role to play, I'm the most outgoing person in the world, right? But if I go to a bar, I'm going to sit there and eat by myself and never look up and talk to another person. So let's create some questions that I can ask the person next to me that are not going to be intrusive, but are going to just start the conversation. And those are the questions that you want to have already in your mind when you're attending a networking event so that you can get started, the conversation started. Once the other person starts talking, You can just stand there and be quiet and nod your head and say, yeah, I understand. Oh, yeah, yeah, uh-huh. And before you know it, you're going to start talking too. And you'll be in a conversation, and now you're fast friends. Try and learn what you can in a networking event from the people you're talking to about the industry, about the company and department that you want to work for, maybe even the person that you want to work for. I'm not going to read through these, but you can read some of these questions that are typical of the kinds of open-ended questions you might want to ask as a part of a networking event or part of a networking conversation. I'll just give you a moment on those. And you can see all of those are really simple kinds of questions, fairly innocuous, that are not going to be controversial, but is going to get somebody to give you some information about the organization. Of course, I'm always going to end with this last question. Who else do you recommend that I speak to? Because I always want to get more names, more people I can add to my network. And follow up is a critical part of any networking conversation. So one of the things I like to always tell people to do, set up your next conversation date before you leave this conversation. Um, this is really important because as long as we're talking to each other, we have the chance to build a further relationship. I have the opportunity to get a job with you. But as soon as we stop talking, I no longer have a chance to get a job. And I'll give you a quick example of this. I was working with a young man who, well, he was probably about 30. He was looking for a job at this company. It got to him and another person who had about 15, 20 years experience. He only had 2 or 3. They hired the other person. He asked the hiring manager, I love you. I love this company. I love what I've learned through the process. Can we keep in touch? Because I'm going to come work for you someday. The question is just when. And so they started a relationship. And every month, at least once a month, he would reach out to this hiring manager. Here's what's going on with my job search, with my life. Here's what I'm hearing about your organization, about the industry. And he was building connection and conversation with that hiring manager. This went on for 5 months. In month 6, they ended up firing the person that they hired. And the hiring manager went back to him and said, look, I don't want to have to interview people. I don't have to look at more resumes. All I want to do is hire you if you're available. And he goes, oh my God, I just started another job literally last week. Can you give me 2 weeks to give them notice so I can leave appropriately and then I can come work for you? Well, that all worked out. He ended up taking a job with them. That was 13 years ago. 13 years ago. And 3 promotions ago that he started working for this company. He has never been happier in his life. And it only happened because he continued to follow up with that hiring manager. He set the next conversation date after every conversation that they had so that both of them knew to expect the next conversation. And this is what you want to do. So thank you after every conversation. Keep them, your name on their radar is the key. Emma is asking, do you have any networking tips for interviews? So, Emma, interviewing and networking are 2 completely different steps in the hiring process. And while a lot of what we're talking about in terms of how to build and maintain relationship with the hiring manager is something you're going to do as a part of the interview process, how to interview is completely different. What we're doing here, though, is getting access to that hiring manager so that they will be ready to interview us and we'll be ready to interview with them when they have a job opening. But if you have more questions or concerns about that, again, just reach out to me and I will be sure to get back to you with more information. We need to keep good records of everything that's going on in our job search so that we can keep track of who we're talking to and what we're talking about. Because if you're talking to, you know, two, three, four people a week that are introducing you to hiring managers, and now you're talking to two or three hiring managers every week, we're looking at as many as 10 people a week that you're talking to. You can't keep all of that in your head. Over the course of a month or two, that could be 30, 40 people. So we need to track that information. And I like to use a simple spreadsheet. Now you can go and get a contact relationship management software, and I do that for my business. But when I was job searching, I would just use a simple spreadsheet. It's got all the contact information for the person that I'm talking to, but these four first columns are really the most important ones to me. The date that I last spoke to you, what was the type of visit that we had, or the type of contact that we had? Was it a phone call, an email, a visit? Here's a running commentary of what our conversations have been over the course of time, so that as things go forward, I can always reflect back on what we last spoke about. And I can look at this callback date. And now every morning when I come down to my desk, I sort this spreadsheet on today's date. That gives me the list of all the people that I need to talk to today. And the comments tell me why I need to talk to them and what I'm going to talk about. Right. So it's a simple way of tracking all of your conversations, all of your networking. More and more Outlook and Gmail and some of the other free email systems are incorporating some of this into their software. So you may not even need to go and get a specialized software, but a spreadsheet will do. Now, we all need to create, I think, a dashboard. Again, help me to track the activity that I'm doing and what's working and what's not working. And so here's what I recommend for the number of things you should be doing in each of these different categories. You can create your own goal for the week and then track week over week. How are you doing? And if you're not getting enough interviews, we probably need to talk to more hiring managers. Well, have I been talking to enough hiring managers? Oh, gee, no, I haven't. I need to now meet and talk to more people who can introduce me to hiring managers, right? So this can help me to refine my weekly activity to get the best results that I need for my job search. We talked already about many of the places to go to do some networking, but I'll just review these again: social media, industry professional associations, alumni associations. Oh my God. So many of my clients have been commenting over the last 5 years since COVID that one of the best places they've gone for networking is alumni associations, because we have an immediate connection. You graduated 5 years after me. Oh my God. Do you remember Professor so and so? I loved her. Oh, that guy was horrible. Right? But you've got something to connect on and talk about immediately. And you both want to help each other, because whether or not it's stated, you recognize that the better you do in your career, the more valuable my degree is. The better I do in my career, the more valuable your degree is. So we want to help each other. Meetup groups can be a great place to get to meet folks. And then the networking groups that we've talked about. I had a client who one day was telling his 5-year-old daughter why he didn't go to work anymore. And he did it in a way that she could understand his job in banking. And he said, talk to your friends and find out what their parents do. And if any of them do the same kind of thing, work in the same kind of place, a bank like me, then tell me who they are. Well, a week later, his 5-year-old daughter came home from kindergarten and said, my friend Sally's daddy works in a bank. And so he made arrangements by taking his daughter to school to meet Sally's dad. Turns out, 3 weeks after that initial conversation, he not only had interviewed with, but was starting a new job as the VP of the bank. Sally's dad was the president. He was looking for a vice president's role. So think about these people you're meeting at your kids' games and parties and things. What do they do? How can they help you? So those are the 14 things that I think will be simple steps that you can take to help you in being a better networker. And if you have questions, we'd love to take those questions now. While you're typing those in, what I'd like to do is just share. This is my most recent book, Take Control of Your Job Search. Since I published this in 24, I've also been published a chapter in Elevate and Empower and a chapter in Hired Every Employment Method. So a couple of ways you can learn more about my thoughts and process. Take Control of Your Job Search is a fabulous workbook. People just love it because it's 20 worksheets that take you step by step from what do I want to be when I grow up to how do I complete an interview. And you just walk through each of those steps and you'll be an expert at job search. Some other presentations that I've got coming up in the next 2 months, and these are the job seeker groups that I facilitate or co-facilitate. If any of those seem of interest to you, again, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to get you connected to be a part of any one of those groups. And there's my contact information. I'm going to leave that up for a moment or two. Feel free to take a snapshot of it. I will also pull my contact information up and put it into the chat. Let me just take a second to get that done here. There we go. Boom. Copy. And okay. Looks like actually if I put it in the chat, not everybody gets to see that. So I'm also going to see if I can, no, I can't put it in the Q&A either.
I can
But
take care of that for you, Paul. If you want to post
yep,
in the chat, I'll take care of it.
okay. It is enter. There we go. There you go. All right. So any questions that anybody has at this point in time? And I'm going to stop the slide sharing now. Questions,
Uh,
anyone?
Trying to update my LinkedIn profile for maximum optimization and to position myself as a thought leader. Need help and any insight is appreciated.
Okay. That's a topic all in of itself. But I'll go back to what I said in this presentation as a starting point. Create a post once a week, something that's of interest and value to the people that you want to connect with, the hiring managers, and then post that. Go back to those hiring managers and to those companies, follow them, connect with them, start engaging with their posts, comment on their posts, ask questions about their posts so that they get to know you and want to engage with you. And that will raise your profile on LinkedIn. In fact, it's the engagement that does the most, according to the algorithm, to raise your profile on LinkedIn than anything else. Now, we can spend a whole session just talking about how do you create an appropriate LinkedIn profile and what needs to be a part of that. So that's a whole other conversation. But please feel free to reach out and we can talk more about that. What else, Andrew? Anything that I missed?
I don't see anything right now, but we can give it another minute or two for them to come.
Okay, sounds great. And while we're just waiting on that, know that, obviously this is how I make my living, so I need to charge for my services, but I always offer my first conversation with anybody is at no cost. And if your question is something that can be quickly and easily answered, less than 10 or 15 minutes of my time, I'm happy to give you that answer without any charge as well. So please feel free to reach out to me. I want to hear from you. I want to help you. And the more I can help you, the more successful you'll be. And ultimately, the more money both of us will make. So happy to do it.
What would you say is the most common issue that people face when trying to establish their network?
You don't realize the people that you don't know. So let me explain that a little bit. Andrew and I are friends. We've worked together for several years now on these presentations. And as much as we know each other and know about each other, I don't know all of the connections that Andrew has. I probably couldn't ever even go through LinkedIn to get to know those connections or know who among those connections are people that I would want to talk to. So I need to go to Andrew. I need to go to my brother, to my niece, to my nephew, to all of my friends. Everyone that you come in contact with, you want to go to them and say, here's the kind of person that I need to know that works at this organization. Who do you know that might be helpful in getting me to those people? And then start having conversations with them and building them. One quick story, and then I'm going to need to drop off in just another minute too. Um, one of my best friends right now, in fact, we just had lunch together on Saturday, um, is a young man. He's about 15, 20 years younger than me. I met him almost 20 years ago now. Holy crap. Shopping at ShopRite. I go to ShopRite every week like clockwork. And at the time, my shopping day was Saturday morning. I would go to ShopRite and, you're always looking for the shortest cashier line. Well, one day I went to this cashier line and there was this young man, he was only 16 years old at the time. And um, I said to him, "Hi, Joe, are we having fun yet?" And he was a little startled because I used his name. And he even said, "How do you know my name?" I said, "Well, it's right there on your name tag." "Oh, duh." And he said, "No, I'm not really having fun just yet because, I can't wait to get off of work and go do whatever with my friends." Cool. That started the conversation. He was the first cashier after 5 or 6 years of shopping at ShopRite. He was the first cashier that engaged me in conversation when I asked, "Are we having fun yet?" And that's kind of my tagline. Whenever I meet someone new, the first thing I say is, "Hey, are we having fun yet?" So next week, I went shopping. I didn't care that his line was longer. I went to his line because I enjoyed the conversation I had with him. And for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I kept going back to his line and we kept having more and more conversation. When it got time for him to apply to colleges, he said, "I'm having trouble with my essays. Do you think you could help me with those?" And now he knew I was a career coach and knew what I did. And so it was appropriate for him to ask that. I said, "Sure." Then he said, "I'm applying to the Peace Corps. Can you help me with that application?" "Sure." And in the intervening time, he came to my house for some parties and things like that. Next thing you know, here it is 20 years later, and he's going to be the executor on my will when I update it next month because he has volunteered to do that. And our relationship is so close that he wants to be able to help my husband and I in that way. Right? All because I turned to the cashier at ShopRite and I said, "Hi, are we having fun yet?" That's how you're going to build your network. What else? Anything else?
No, nothing else has come in, Paul, so we can go ahead and end it there.
Beautiful. Hey guys, it was great to spend some time with you all. Thank you. I tried to reach out to a few of you before we got started on LinkedIn to connect, but please feel free to connect back with me if I didn't get to you. I'd love to have conversation with you whenever you have some time. In the meantime, have a great day, a great week, stay warm, and good luck with your job search.
All right. Thank you, Paul, and thank you everybody for attending today. Um, this program was recorded, so a link will be sent out to everybody who registered. So look out for that email. And just like to close with everybody be safe, be well, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.